I sat my teenage daughter down and told her she had a choice, her phone or her boyfriend. How far would you go to protect your child? What if your child was the monster? I watched my daughter, Casey, weaponize innocence, lie with a smile, and then knife in hand, plunge into a revenge plot that was years in the making. And the most shocking twist? She was the one who ended up truly broken. My 16-year-old Casey had been with Dylan for 6 months, and honestly, he was the picture of devotion. Every Friday, fresh flowers. He'd drive her to school in his beat-up Honda when it rained. He spent entire weekends patiently tutoring her for chemistry tests, even though, bless his heart, she kept failing. The kid was absolutely head over heels for my daughter. But then I started noticing things. Casey's phone behavior got weird. Aggressively flipping it face down at family dinners. Taking it to the bathroom even for quick 30-second trips. I even caught her sleeping with it tucked under her pillow like some kind of electronic security blanket she couldn't live without. A knot started forming in my stomach. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, Dylan showed up at our front door. Tears were streaming down his face, his voice shaking. The poor kid could barely get the words out between sobs. He'd seen Casey's Instagram story from some random house party. Her arms wrapped tightly around a guy named Alex. But that exact same night, she texted him, Dylan, claiming she was homesick with a terrible migraine. My heart just broke for him. When I confronted Casey, she immediately went defensive, shouting, "Mom, Dylan's way too clingy and needy and suffocating. Alex actually understands me and doesn't try to control every second of my life like Dylan does." That's when it all clicked into place for me. My daughter was running a completely elaborate double life through her smartphone. Secret late-night Snapchat sessions with Alex, planning their next secret meetups, while simultaneously sending sweet goodnight texts to Dylan, telling him how desperately she missed and loved him. She was playing these two innocent boys against each other like chess pieces in some twisted, cruel game. Dylan kept buying her expensive gifts and bouquets of roses, utterly convinced he wasn't being a good enough boyfriend. Meanwhile, Alex thought he was this exciting, dangerous rebel, stealing her away from some boring, controlling relationship that didn't even exist. The manipulation was calculated, it was cruel, and it was sophisticated beyond her years. She'd screenshot Dylan's sweetest messages to laugh about them with Alex, then turn around and complain to Dylan that Alex was bothering her when she wanted sympathy or more attention. It was sickening. So, I decided to give her my final ultimatum. "Casey," I said, looking her straight in the eye, "you need to choose right now. Your phone or Dylan. Pick one and stick with it for an entire month. No exceptions." She immediately gave me her phone, a smirk playing on her lips. "Easy choice, Mom. Dylan will understand and forgive me. He always does whatever I want." But here's what Casey didn't anticipate. Without her phone as a coordination tool, she couldn't juggle her elaborate double life anymore. No phone meant she actually had to spend real, unfiltered face-to-face time with both guys, instead of managing them through carefully crafted text messages and social media posts. Alex, it turned out, got completely bored within the first week when there was no more sneaking around or secret messaging. Turns out half his attraction was the thrill of forbidden romance, not actually liking Casey as a person or wanting a real relationship. And Dylan? Dylan started noticing how completely different Casey acted when she couldn't hide behind her screen. Without constant texting to smooth things over, he saw how dismissive, mean, and selfish she actually was in person during their dates. By the end of week 2, Alex completely vanished. And then came the real twist. Casey received a message, a video showing 3 girls from her class laughing, explaining they'd invented Alex entirely. They'd used an older guy for meetups, coordinated every text, watched Casey destroy Dylan for someone who didn't exist. These were girls Casey had bullied relentlessly in middle school, and this was payback, years in the making. Casey had developed genuine feelings for fake Alex, and realizing she'd been played, it broke something fundamental in her. She grabbed her car keys, and that's when I saw a kitchen knife was missing. I chased her, my heart pounding, a cold dread washing over me. I reached the first girl's house, but Casey was already inside. I heard screaming. I hit that front door so hard I thought my shoulder would pop out of its socket. The lock gave way, and I stumbled into the hallway just as Casey lunged at one of the girls, the knife raised above her head. I tackled her from the side. We both crashed into the wall hard. The knife went skittering across the hardwood floor, disappearing under a console table. Casey fought like an absolute animal underneath me, all nails and teeth and thrashing limbs. She was screaming so loud her voice cracked, and I swear the neighbors 3 houses down probably heard her. They destroyed the only real thing in my life. The only real thing. The girl's dad came thundering down the stairs in his bathrobe and helped me pin Casey's arms behind her back. She was still screaming, tears and snot running down her face, making these horrible choking sounds between words. Alex understood me. He actually understood me. And you just made him up to hurt me. He was the only person who ever actually got me. The girl Casey had tried to attack was pressed against the wall, hyperventilating. Her mom on the phone with the police. I could hear the dispatcher's voice asking questions, but everything sounded underwater and far away. "Please," I begged the girl's parents, tears welling in my own eyes. "Please don't call the cops. She's 16. This will destroy her entire future. I'll get her help. I promise I'll get her help." The dad looked at me like I'd lost my mind, and honestly maybe I had. But after a long moment, he nodded at his wife, and she hung up the phone. "Get her out of my house," he said, his voice flat. "And if she ever comes near my daughter again, I'm not giving you a second chance." I managed to get Casey to the car somehow. She went completely silent during the drive home, which was almost worse than the screaming. I kept glancing over at her in the passenger seat. She was just staring out the window with this blank expression, like someone had unplugged her brain. But then I noticed her wrist moving, her Apple Watch. She was still getting messages, probably from those girls or someone at school who'd already heard what happened. The little screen kept lighting up with notifications, and I could see her scrolling through them with her thumb. I pulled over on the highway right there. Didn't even care that cars were honking and swerving around us. I yanked that watch off her wrist so hard the band broke and threw it out the window. It bounced twice on the asphalt before a semi-truck crushed it into electronic dust. Casey didn't even react. She just kept staring straight ahead, like I wasn't even there, like nothing I did mattered anymore. When we got home around 10:30, Dylan was sitting on our porch steps, just sitting there in the dark with his phone in his hands, and this weirdly calm expression on his face that didn't match the situation at all. Casey saw him, and her whole body went rigid. "What are you doing here?" Dylan stood up slowly, brushing off his jeans. He held out his phone toward her. "I made you something. Thought you might want to see it before everyone else does tomorrow morning." He pressed play, and I heard Casey's voice, loud and clear. A whole video montage, maybe 30 or 40 clips, all stitched together with these smooth transitions like he'd actually spent time editing it. Casey's face in every single one. Laughing with different friends at different times, saying the most vicious things about Dylan I'd ever heard come out of her mouth. He's so pathetic, honestly, like a puppy that won't stop following me around. It's actually kind of sad. I swear to God if he brings me one more bouquet of roses, I'm going to lose it. Does he think I'm running a funeral home or something? Dylan thinks we're going to get married or whatever. It's actually kind of sad. I told Becca I'm just keeping him around until someone better shows up. He's like a placeholder boyfriend. The video went on and on. Casey calling him desperate. Casey imitating the way he talks, making her voice all high and whiny. Casey telling her friend she was only with him because he'd do literally anything for her, and it was convenient. Casey laughing about how he probably cries himself to sleep thinking about her. But Dylan wasn't crying now. He was smiling. This cold smile I'd never seen on his face before. Casey's face had gone completely white. How did you, your friends? The ones you sent these to, Dylan said simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. They've been sending me screenshots for months. Every single insult, every time you called me pathetic or desperate or boring. I've got all of it saved in a folder on my laptop, organized by date. You're lying. Am I? Dylan's smile got wider. He scrolled through his phone and showed her dozens of text threads. Girls Casey thought were her friends, all of them feeding Dylan information. Timestamps going back to October, November, December. 6 months of receipts. Want to see more? I've got voice memos too. That time you told Jess I probably had a small dick. Yeah, she recorded that and sent it to me. I just stood there with my mouth open. This kid had been playing her the entire time. And honestly, I didn't know whether to be horrified or impressed. Every flower I brought you, Dylan continued, taking a step closer to Casey. Every ride to school in the rain, every Friday night I spent helping you study chemistry. Even though you never actually studied and just spent the whole time on your phone, that was all an act, Casey. I was documenting everything, building a case. Casey made this choking sound in her throat. Why would you? Because I wanted to prove you were exactly who I thought you were. Dylan put his phone back in his pocket. Those 3 girls who made up Alex? They came to me in September before we even started dating. They told me what you did to them in middle school. How you spread rumors that Olivia's mom was sleeping with her tennis coach. How you photoshopped Jenna's face onto inappropriate pictures and sent them around the school. They asked if I wanted to help them get back at you. I said yes, but not because I cared about their revenge. I had my own reasons. He took another step closer to Casey, and I saw her actually flinch back, which was something I'd never seen her do before. I wanted to prove that you were irredeemable, that no amount of kindness or patience or love would ever change who you are at your core. So, I played the perfect boyfriend while collecting evidence of every cruel thing you said and did. And you know what? You made it really, really easy. You couldn't help yourself. Dylan, please. I've already sent everything to Principal Hayes and to every parent in our grade. I've got a whole email list, and I posted the whole video compilation on Instagram about 20 minutes ago with the caption, "The real Casey Anderson." So by tomorrow morning, literally the entire school will know exactly who you are. Your reputation is done, Casey. Completely destroyed. And honestly, he laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound at all. It was bitter and sharp. You did this to yourself. I just held up the mirror. He walked past both of us, got in his Honda, and drove away. Casey just stood there, frozen on the porch, staring at the spot where his car had been, her mouth hanging open like she couldn't process what had just happened. I grabbed her arm harder than I meant to. Upstairs. She didn't fight me. I think she was in actual shock. I got her up to her room and told her to stay there while I tried to figure out what the hell to do next. But I couldn't stop thinking about what Dylan had said. 6 months. He'd been planning this for 6 months. Part of me felt sick about it, like this was cruel and calculated and wrong. But another part of me thought about that kid showing up at our door in tears, genuinely hurt, and wondered if maybe Casey had earned exactly what she got. Maybe this was just consequences finally catching up to her. I paced around the living room for maybe an hour, my mind going in circles. Then I realized I needed to understand how deep this went. I needed to see the real damage. I went back up to her room and found her just sitting on her bed, staring at nothing, her hands folded in her lap like she was in a trance. I didn't ask permission. I just opened her laptop, which she'd left on her desk, still logged into everything, and I started going through her files. That's when I found the folders. 19 different folders, each one labeled with a person's name. I recognized some of them immediately. Dylan, Olivia, Jenna, her friend Becca, some kid named Jordan, her guidance counselor Mr. Peters, her dad's girlfriend Linda. I opened the first one, the Dylan folder, and found a document that was basically a psychological profile. Notes on his insecurities organized by category, abandonment issues from dad leaving, responds well to physical affection, needs constant reassurance, insecure about intelligence. Then a section on what lies worked best on him. Tell him I had a nightmare about him leaving. Cry a little. He'll do anything I want for at least 3 days. What Casey had managed to extract from him, Whether it was money or homework help or rides or social status. Every interaction documented like a twisted science experiment with timestamps and effectiveness ratings. I opened another folder. Same thing. This one was Jordan. Some kid I'd never even heard of. Lonely, desperate for female attention. Will believe anything if you bat your eyelashes. Got $200 from him by saying my mom was sick and I needed help with medical bills. He actually cried when he gave me the money. Rating 8 out of 10. Would use again. And another. All 19 of them were the same. These detailed manipulation guides for different people in Casey's life. Some of them were kids from school, but a couple were adults, which made my skin crawl. Her guidance counselor, her dad's girlfriend, even me. There was a folder labeled Mom. I couldn't bring myself to open it. I just stared at it for like 5 minutes, my hand hovering over the mouse pad. But I couldn't do it. But then I saw another folder buried deeper in the directory. This one was just labeled A. I clicked it open and my breath caught in my throat. Hundreds of pages. Actual diary entries written directly to Alex like he was a real person reading them. Screenshots of their conversations going back weeks. Plans for their future together. Written out in detail. Casey talking about the college they'd go to together, the apartment they'd get, the life they'd build, how she was going to introduce him to me on her 17th birthday, how she wanted to lose her virginity to him, and she'd been researching hotels and reading articles about how to make it special. How she'd been thinking about running away with him to start over somewhere new where nobody knew either of them, and they could just be themselves. This wasn't like the other folders at all. There was no clinical analysis, no manipulation tactics, no ratings. This was real emotion. Raw and desperate and completely genuine in a way I hadn't seen from Casey in years, maybe ever. The revenge girls had accidentally created the one person Casey had ever wanted to be honest with. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to find Casey standing in the doorway. Her eyes went straight to the laptop screen, and she saw exactly what I was reading. Get out of that. Her voice was flat and cold. Casey, I said. Get out of it. She crossed the room in 3 steps and slammed the laptop shut so hard I thought she might break the screen. That's private. You have no right. You have files on 19 different people, documenting how to manipulate them. I said. Nothing in here is private anymore. Nothing. She picked up the laptop and held it against her chest like I might try to grab it. The others don't matter. They were just practice, just ways to get what I needed. But Alex was different. Alex wasn't real. I know that. She was screaming now, her face turning red. I know he wasn't real, but what I felt was real. For the first time in my entire life, I actually wanted to be honest with someone. I was going to tell him everything. Tell him what? She started pacing back and forth across her room, still clutching the laptop. About Dylan. About all of it. About how I'm empty inside and I don't feel things the way normal people do. I don't feel guilty when I hurt people. I don't feel bad when I lie. I just feel nothing most of the time. But with Alex I felt something. I actually cared. I thought if Alex knew the real me and still loved me, maybe I wasn't actually broken. Maybe there was something in me worth loving. What about all the people you broke along the way? I asked. Dylan and everyone else you manipulated? They're real people with real feelings. Casey stopped pacing and looked at me like I'd asked her to explain calculus to a toddler, like the question was fundamentally stupid. I didn't love them, so it didn't count. It only counts if you actually care about the person. Everything else is just strategy. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. My daughter understood the difference between cruelty and care. She knew right from wrong. She just didn't care about anyone but herself. The next morning, someone knocked on our door around 8. I barely slept, just laid in bed, staring at the ceiling thinking about those folders. I opened the door to find one of the 3 revenge girls standing there with her mom. The girl looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from foot to foot like she didn't actually want to be there. Mrs. Anderson, the mom said. I think we need to talk about what happened. I let them in and made coffee while the girl, whose name was Olivia, sat at our kitchen table looking miserable. She had dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept either. We didn't expect Casey to actually fall in love with Alex, Olivia said quietly, staring into her coffee mug. It was just supposed to humiliate her, you know, the way she humiliated us. We thought she'd be embarrassed and angry when she found out, but we didn't think she'd actually develop real feelings. Her mom squeezed her shoulder. Show Mrs. Anderson what you showed me. Olivia pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. Messages from Casey to Alex that made my chest physically hurt to read. Casey planning what she'd wear when she introduced Alex to me, describing the outfit down to the shoes. Casey talking about how she'd never trusted anyone before, but she trusted him completely. Casey asking if he'd still love her if he knew all the terrible things she'd done, listing them out one by one like a confession. She was all in, Olivia said. Like completely all in. We created this fake person and she fell in love with him for real. She sent him like 100 messages a day. Good morning texts, good night texts, random thoughts throughout the day. She talked to Alex more than she talked to Dylan. Her mom put a hand on Olivia's shoulder. We think Casey needs professional help. What happened yesterday with the knife? That scared us. My daughter woke up screaming last night. We're not pressing charges, but we think you need to get her evaluated by someone. After they left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time just thinking. Then I went upstairs and knocked on Casey's door. Go away, she called. I opened it anyway. She was lying in bed, still in the same clothes from yesterday, looking like she hadn't slept at all. I sat down on the edge of her bed and showed her the screenshots from Olivia's phone. Casey took the phone from my hand and stared at the messages she'd written. Her face didn't change at all, just stayed completely blank. They showed you those? Why would they show you those? Because they're worried about you. Because yesterday you tried to stab someone. I wasn't going to actually hurt her, Casey said, but her voice had no conviction. I just wanted to scare them. Make them understand what they did to me. What they did to you. I repeated. Casey, you bullied these girls for years. You made their lives hell. That was middle school. That was forever ago. She handed the phone back to me. I was planning to tell Alex everything. I practiced what I'd say like 100 times in the mirror. I was going to tell him about the manipulations, about Dylan, about all the people I'd hurt. I thought if Alex knew the real me, the actual worst parts, and he still wanted to be with me, then maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I could be fixed. And what about all the people you broke? I asked for the third time. Do they matter at all? She looked at me with those empty eyes. I told you I didn't love them. It didn't count. They were just people. That afternoon my phone rang. Principal Hayes. She asked if I could come in for a meeting as soon as possible. When I got there, she had a file folder an inch thick sitting on her desk with Casey's name written on the tab. 19 different students have come forward, she said, opening the folder. Inside were printed emails, screenshots, handwritten statements. They all had matching stories about Casey manipulating them in various ways. Some for money, some for homework, some for social advantage. We also found evidence that Casey was catfishing younger students online, pretending to be college girls to extract money, and explicit photos from middle schoolers. We're suspending her pending a full investigation. Depending on what we find, we may need to involve the police. I drove home in a complete daze. When I got back to the house, I found Casey in her room with her laptop open, completely calm for the first time in days. She was researching schools in other districts, taking detailed notes on how to transfer mid-year, looking up information about legally changing her name in our state. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She didn't even look up from the screen. Starting over. New school, new identity, new everything. I'll go live with Dad for a while and transfer using his address. Nobody at the new school will know anything about this. Clean slate. Casey, you can't just run away from this. Why not? Now she looked at me, and there was something calculating in her expression. People do it all the time. Fresh Start knew me. I'll be more careful next time about who I trust. I won't make the same mistakes. I felt like I was talking to a complete stranger. She hadn't learned anything from this. She was already planning her next con. Already thinking 3 steps ahead. I walked over and took the laptop away. Just closed it and unplugged it from the wall and picked it up. Casey stood up so fast her desk chair fell over backward with a crash. Give that back right now. No, Mom. I need that for. You need to face what you've done, I said. You need to actually deal with the consequences instead of running away to start this whole cycle over again somewhere else. You need to sit with what you did and feel something about it. Casey's face twisted into something ugly. Something I'd never seen before. You want to know the truth? Fine. I've been manipulating you too. For years. I've been tracking which emotional appeals work best on you. Which tears get sympathy. Which stories make you feel guilty. You were easier than Dylan. Way easier. Just cry about Dad leaving and you fold every single time. Just tell you I'm scared and you give me whatever I want. I've been playing you since I was 12. The slap happened before I even realized I'd raised my hand. The sound of it cracked through the room, and Casey's head snapped to the side. We both just froze there staring at each other. I'd never hit her before. Not once in 16 years. Not even when she was a toddler throwing tantrums in grocery stores. Casey touched her cheek where my handprint was already turning red. Then she smiled, and it was the coldest smile I'd ever seen on a human face. Finally, she said. A real reaction. That's the first genuine thing you've done in years. 2 hours later Dylan came back. I was sitting in the living room trying to process everything, trying to figure out what kind of mother raises a child like this, when I heard his car pull up outside. He came to the door with a manila envelope in his hands, the kind you use for important documents. These are for Casey, he said. Printed transcripts of her messages to Alex. Every single one. I want her to read them out loud to you. All of them. Dylan, I don't think that's. I'll read them at a school assembly if she doesn't, he interrupted, and his voice was hard. I've already asked Principal Hayes. She said she'd allow it, given the circumstances and the fact that Casey's being suspended anyway. So, Casey can read them to you in private, or I can read them to 300 students tomorrow morning. Her choice. I called Casey downstairs. She took one look at Dylan standing in our living room with that envelope, and I watched all the color drain from her face. No, she said. Absolutely not. Get out of my house. School assembly it is then, Dylan said cheerfully. I'll even make a PowerPoint. Put her face on every slide. Wait. Casey walked down the rest of the stairs and grabbed the envelope from his hands. Fine. I'll do it. But then you leave and you never come back here. Deal. Deal. She opened the envelope and pulled out what looked like 50 pages of printed messages, single-spaced. Her hands were shaking as she started reading. Dear Alex, I've never told anyone this before, but sometimes I feel like I'm watching my own life from outside my body. Like nothing I do actually matters because I don't feel it the way other people do. But when I talk to you I feel like I'm actually inside my life for once. Like I'm real. Her voice cracked. She kept reading. I know I've done terrible things to people. I know I'm not a good person. I've hurt people on purpose just to see if I could. But I want to be better for you. I want to be someone who deserves you. I think you might be the only person who could make me want to change. 20 pages in, she was crying so hard she could barely breathe, barely see the words on the paper. I was listening to my daughter's only honest emotions. Every raw confession and vulnerable hope. All of it directed at a person who'd never existed. It was like watching someone grieve their own capacity for love. I've been thinking about our future together. Where we'll live, what we'll do. I want to introduce you to my mom on my 17th birthday. I think you'd like her. I think she'd like you too once she got to know you. I've never wanted her to meet any of the guys I've dated before, but you're different. Everything about you is different. You make me want to be honest. Casey got to the last page and just stopped. She couldn't read anymore. The paper was shaking in her hands. Dylan took the pages from her. Now you know what it feels like, he said quietly. To care about someone and have them destroy you. To trust someone and find out it was all fake. That's what you did to me, Casey. Except I knew the whole time. You didn't even get the mercy of ignorance. After he left, Casey just sat on the couch staring at nothing. Tears still running down her face, but silently now. I sat down next to her, not sure what to say. Not sure if there was anything to say. I want to find the real person who played Alex at the in-person meetups, she said after a long silence. If I can find him and explain that it was real for me, maybe we could actually date. Maybe he felt something too when we met in person. Maybe there was a connection. And that's when I finally understood. She still didn't get it. She still thought her feelings mattered more than her actions. She still thought she could apologize her way into getting what she wanted. That the right words would fix everything. Casey, no one from those meetups is ever going to talk to you again. You know that, right? She turned to look at me with this calculating expression that made her look so much older than 16. They will if I apologize, right? If I'm vulnerable enough. If I make them understand that I actually cared. The next day, the 3 revenge girls showed up at our door with their parents. They clearly coordinated this whole thing. Probably had a group chat planning it. The parents did most of the talking while the girls stood there looking uncomfortable, like they wished they were anywhere else. We want Casey to make a public apology video, one of the dads said, a big guy in a polo shirt, arms crossed. We want her to list every person she hurt by name, and take full responsibility for what she did. No excuses, no justifications, just accountability. And we want to post it on social media so everyone can see it. Casey agreed immediately. Too immediately, which should have been my first clue. I'll do it. I'll apologize to everyone, but I need to know something first. Which one of your friends played Alex at the in-person meetups? Just tell me his name. I just want to talk to him. The 3 girls looked at each other. Olivia spoke up. It wasn't one person. We rotated. Sometimes it was my older brother, Jake. Sometimes it was Jenna's cousin, Matt. Sometimes we hired an actor from Craigslist for like $50 and just told him what to say. Alex wasn't a single person. He was a committee. Casey's face went completely blank. What do you mean? There was no real person for you to have feelings for, Jenna said, and she actually looked a little bit sorry. Alex was all of us. Every text was written by committee. We'd meet up and decide what he should say next. What would keep you hooked? Every meetup was a different guy playing a role we gave him. I watched something fundamental break in Casey's eyes. She convinced herself that even though the relationship was fake, there was still a real person behind it somewhere. Someone she could potentially find and connect with, someone who'd seen her in person, and maybe felt something real, even if he didn't know the full context. But there was nothing. Just a rotating cast of strangers reading lines, playing a character these girls had created specifically to hurt her. We set up Casey's phone to record the apology video. She sat in our living room with the 3 girls and their parents watching, everyone in a semicircle around her like an audience. I pressed record and she started talking, reading from a list she'd written on notebook paper. My name is Casey Anderson. I want to apologize to the following people for manipulating and hurting them. She started listing names. Dylan, Olivia, Jenna, Caitlin, other kids from school whose names I recognized from her folders. Her tone was completely flat, emotionless, like she was reading a grocery list at the supermarket. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I was wrong. I hurt you and that wasn't okay. She got about halfway through the list and then just stopped. She looked directly at the camera, and I saw something shift in her expression. Actually, no. I'm not sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I got caught. The only thing I regret is believing Alex was real. If I'd known he was fake from the start, I would have been more careful. I would have protected myself better. I would have won this game. She reached over and deleted the recording before anyone could stop her. Just tapped the trash icon and it was gone. Get out of my house, she said to all of them. We're done here. This was a waste of time. The parents started threatening legal action, but I knew Casey was untouchable, and so did they. She was a minor. Everything had happened online or at school. The catfishing stuff was bad, but the police would probably just give her a warning. There was no case that would actually go anywhere, and they knew it too. They left angry, but they left. That night I couldn't sleep. Around 2 in the morning, I got up to check on Casey and found her in her room doing something that made my skin absolutely crawl. She'd taken a black Sharpie and was writing on the dark screen of her old phone, the one I confiscated on the first day, writing a message like she was texting someone who could actually read it. I stood in the doorway reading what she'd written. Dear Alex, I know you weren't real, but what I felt was. That's more than I felt for anyone, including my own mother. You win. You destroyed the only part of me that could feel anything good. I hope you're proud. Who are you writing to? I asked from the doorway. She didn't look up, just kept writing. The only version of myself I ever liked. The one who could actually feel something real. The one who wanted to be better. She was finally broken, but not in a way that would make her better or teach her empathy or turn her into a good person. Just broken enough to be more careful, more calculating, more dangerous. 3 months went by. They felt like 3 years. Casey moved in with her dad across town and transferred to a school in his district. She took all her stuff in trash bags and boxes and didn't say goodbye. I barely heard from her except for occasional texts asking for money or information she needed for school paperwork. Her dad sent me updates that were always the same. She's doing fine, making friends, staying out of trouble. I think the change of scenery is good for her. Then one Tuesday evening my phone rang. Dylan. Mrs. Anderson, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I don't know if I should be telling you this, but I've been looking at Casey's new Instagram account. My stomach dropped. I hadn't looked at her social media in months. Had actually muted her account so I wouldn't be tempted. And she's already dating someone, some guy named Tyler from her new school. She's posting all the same stuff she posted when we were together. Cute couple photos with the same poses, captions about how amazing he is, how lucky she is, how he's her soulmate. It's like watching a rerun of a show you've already seen. Dylan, do you think she learned anything? His voice was quiet, smaller than I'd ever heard it. Do you think any of this changed her at all? Or did we just teach her how to be better at hiding what she really is? I pulled up Casey's Instagram on my phone while he was talking, scrolled through her recent posts from the last few weeks. There was Tyler, tall, athletic-looking, smiling at the camera with his arm around my daughter. Casey looking up at him with this adoring expression I recognized immediately because I'd seen her use it on Dylan 100 times. Different boy, exact same performance. Even the captions were similar. Lucky me. And how did I get so blessed? And every day with you is an adventure. My phone buzzed with a text while I was looking at her Instagram. A number I didn't recognize. Hi, Mrs. Anderson. This is Tyler. I'm dating your daughter, Casey. I got your number from her dad's phone when we went to his place for dinner. I just wanted to reach out and say that Casey is honestly the most amazing person I've ever met. Is she always this wonderful? I feel like I hit the jackpot. I stared at that message for a long time. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed run and looked at it. Then I deleted it. Typed she's not who you think she is and deleted that too. Typed check her phone when she's not looking and deleted it. Tyler was going to learn about Casey the same way Dylan did. The same way everyone eventually did, the hard way. And maybe he needed to learn it himself. Maybe that was the only way anyone ever learned anything real. I put the phone back to my ear. She learned exactly what she wanted to learn, Dylan. How to not get caught next time. That's what I thought, he said. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy for thinking that. Thanks, Mrs. Anderson. I hung up and sat there in my living room for a long time, looking at Tyler's text message. Then I blocked Casey's number. Some people don't get better. They just get better at hiding. Have you ever had to face the difficult truth about someone you love? Or watch someone you care about repeat destructive patterns? What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.